And I believe that we are live. Happy Friday, everyone. Happy Friday. I'm so glad to be here. What a great way to end the week with another episode of Just Shilling and another incredible guest. And before we do get into it, folks, just want to let you know that nothing that we discuss here today is going to be considered financial advice, and the opinions that we do share are of our own and do not necessarily represent the organizations that we work for respectively. And if anything's probably a little bit too spicy or controversial for a family dinner during the holidays, we won't get into those topics here, but we're all adults. So let's jump into it. Super, super psyched to have a great guest with us today, folks. Paul from Uphold. If you're not familiar with who he is and the incredible organization that he represents, we're going to get into all of that today. So Paul, thank you. Happy Friday. How's it going?
Great. Happy Friday. I hope that a bunch of people are having a great weekend at ETH Denver. Lots of cool things coming out of that, and super
Yes.
excited for what the future holds.
Yeah, man. I just been hearing so many positive things, even too from Consensus Hong Kong, and people got back from that, and they're just still kind of just like raving about that, and hearing a lot of positives about what's going on in ETH. And we got more conferences coming up, so I think we're kind of kicking off into like the core of conference season. So many exciting things, but for this, because we have so much to uncover today, Paul. So I want to get right into it. Let's take it back to the genesis a little bit and talk to us about the early days. I believe it was 2011 since you've kind of officially entered the space. So you've been here for quite some time. And I really just want to know what initially drew you in. Was it the technology? Was it the dynamic nature of the space? Or was it something deeper?
Yeah. Well, I think I was in the right place at the right time to really find Bitcoin and see how it could immediately change my daily life. So, I've always been into markets. I've always been into trading. And when I opened my first brokerage account, I basically had to mail a check, wait 6 to 8 weeks, maybe get credit for that. And at the time, I was trading like $100. So,
Yeah.
I when I finally saw that, I was like, oh, great, this is awesome. When somebody asked me, "Hey, will you pay me in Bitcoin?" I was like, "What's Bitcoin?" And then looked into it. And when I transferred value instantly, I was like, "Oh, you've got the Bitcoin. You've got everything. Wow, that's amazing." And so the lack of friction, the lack of difficulty in transferring value blew my mind. And from then I went down
Ooh.
the rabbit hole. That was when I got orange pilled, and seeing the crypto industry grow around such basic concepts has been amazing.
Yeah, and that community, I would say, it was pretty small back then, and even acquiring crypto and doing transactions was a lot more difficult than it is today. So, that's kind of what it was like when you first entered. But were there any other kind of motivations other than what you just mentioned to kind of continue to move forward and think that, hey, this might be something that I want to do long term, or actually dive in it and join this as a professional career?
I think the my days of thinking, oh, this is going to be a career, we're still kind of far in the future. It was really just a hobby. It was really just something I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. I've always been part of the cypherpunk ethos. I've always thought about privacy, about control of your own digital identity. And so crypto really fit into that. Bitcoin especially fit into that model. And so it was really just a hobby for a few years. And then I thought, hey, wait a minute, more and more this is becoming part of the current financial system, and I want to be part of that. I was lucky enough to be working in fintech, and so I saw how crypto and blockchains could really change the world.
Yeah. And since you did work in fintech and you've always been, a technologist at heart, what were some transferable skills or things that you learned from before entering the space that were able to help you kind of transition to your first job? And maybe talk a little bit about like that actual first job that you had in the space and kind of what you were doing.
Yeah. So actually, my first job, like professional job in crypto, was when I joined PayPal as director of product there. And prior to that, I had been working in fintech. So I worked at Prudential Financial. I worked at a startup called PriceLock. I worked at a company called Lending Club. So there's a lot of fintech kind of background. But in that whole journey, I had been talking to people about crypto. I'm one of the people who's like, hey, share this. I was very interested in it. And one of the biggest things that I heard a lot of people say is, so what? Like, I don't really have a problem that this needs to address, and
Yeah.
a lot of skepticism as, oh, is this something that is real, or is this something that is maybe going to benefit a few people who have very specific like personality traits. And so one of the main skills that I learned is it actually, crypto itself is a tool, right? And you don't go in and you tell people, hey, I have a tool for you. You go in and you talk about, hey, there are problems that need to be solved. And when you talk about problems, people understand it. They're like, oh, yeah, I get that. Maybe
Yeah.
they're wanting to send money home and they want to find the lowest fee way to send money back home. Maybe they want to buy something online or accept a payment online. And there's no good way for them to do that because the person is in a different country, or the person is paying with some kind of instrument that they don't accept. Or maybe you just want to be able to have more control over your money and not have to be dependent on a third party for that. So when you talk in those kind of terms, people get it a little bit more than when you say, oh, I've got this shiny new tool that can make something better. And that's what I try to apply to my career and how I kind of joined product management in crypto specifically.
Nice, nice. So now, fast forward to present day, you're a CPO, right? And you're at Uphold. So can you just briefly give the audience a quick 30-second minute elevator pitch about Uphold and what they're all about for those that may not be familiar? And then we'll get a little bit more into like the roles and responsibilities, some of the things that you do day to day.
Yeah. So Uphold has been around for over a decade now, and that seems like forever in crypto time.
Yes, it
Uphold was
is.
originally started as a way for people to easily on and off ramp from Bitcoin. And that was the genesis of it. And as the company matured, they added more and more tokens, they added more and more coins. And now they have over 10 million users. We have billions of dollars of crypto that is traded daily on the exchange. A few years back, what they realized is that, and there's our CEO Simon McLaughlin has like a huge vision on bringing this to life. Is we've learned a lot when it comes to connecting digital assets to TradFi, and that goes in all of the licensing that we've gotten, all of the technology we will to make on and off ramps happen. Other companies who want to get the benefits of blockchain could also use that same kind of technology. So the other side of Uphold's business is a platform that connects companies to Web3 to crypto technologies. And so there's a set of APIs, there's a set of tools that a bank might use or a fintech might use to add crypto capabilities into their existing product lines. And that's part of the growth of Uphold over the last few years.
Fantastic. And bring us a little bit into, what a typical day is like for you, Paul. And I know that we work in this industry and there's no such thing as a typical day. It's always something new. But for people that may have a product background or they're looking to kind of transition into the industry and they do come from the product side, just kind of help us understand what are some of the major things that you're involved with.
Yeah. As CPO, my role is to make sure our product team has the tools they need to create world changing fintech products. And so a lot of that is making sure that they have ways to listen to customers, to talk
Mm,
to our users. They're plugged into things like the sales team or the marketing team and understand what they're hearing in the market so that they can use their skills to adapt and create more scalable, more robust products for those different customer segments. A large part of that too is making sure that they are thinking about the future. So, what will the next set of problems look like when everyone is connected with blockchains? I call this the Uber problem. You can't have Uber without an iPhone. So,
yeah.
what now that we have iPhones, what is the next thing
Yeah.
that we can build on chain or that we can enable? And so, a lot of what I do day to day is really just making sure that the team has support, air cover, and then taking the message back to all of the people internally who need to understand what we're doing, who we're doing it for, and why it's important. And that's actually pretty typical product management. I don't think that's unique to crypto. I think the crypto aspect is really, hey, there is this new technology. How do we embed it in our daily lives? But again, it's not about the technology, it's about what problems are you solving.
Yeah. And one of those things that you just mentioned, Paul, about listening to the customer, I think that's obviously very important in any kind of product role. But from an organizational standpoint, specifically with Uphold, I know that they've been very close to the street in terms of listening to what their customers are saying. So how do you kind of balance what your customers are saying while still trying to approach it logically so that it's still achievable within internally?
Yeah, great question. And again, this kind of goes back on a product management kind of discipline, right? Which is you have to understand what your customers are really asking for, not necessarily what exactly they're saying. And you can do that in a number of ways, but one is you take what they say and you also look at the data on how they behave, and then
Hmm.
you match that to what you're hearing from marketing, from sales, from what your competitors are doing, and you use that to try to get to, okay, what is the actual problem that somebody has? What is it that they are really trying to solve? So a customer might tweet us and say, hey, why don't you list this coin? And it's not really about whatever coins they're tweeting us. It's, hey, I want access to different types of assets, or I want to be able to participate in different communities and different ecosystems through what Uphold brings. And so it's really trying to find what is it that the customer is actually looking for, and then launching that super quickly and seeing the data, looking at how they behave and iterating, because very rarely, like the first time you launch a product, you're going to get it perfect. So it's, hey, what did we miss? What do we need to improve? How can we make it even more valuable to our end users?
Yes, that's fantastic. And from a overall company standpoint as well too, I think that you're very different from a lot of other exchanges. So from like a technical standpoint and just kind of some of the ways that Uphold works, can you help explain to us, Paul, what makes Uphold a little bit unique compared to the rest?
Yeah. So you can think about Uphold as a number of things, but mostly it is a place where you can aggregate across all of the different financial technology tools that you might need as a customer. Now that's a lot of
Whoa.
garbly, that's a lot of enchilada, but think about it. If your bank had plugged into a crypto exchange, all of the things that you could do differently from that, whether that's real-time P2P transfers, whether that's instant settlement, whether that's easy
Mm,
on and off ramps between crypto and fiat. So a lot of our infrastructure is built to support these use cases. We have everything from open a high yield US dollar checking account to I want to buy this coin or that coin. And the way that we actually solve those trades, or we route those trades, is through an aggregated model. So we look across centralized exchanges, across decentralized exchanges, and we find the best liquidity, the best price to execute somebody's trade. And that's really unique about us. We don't have an order book in the same way that some other exchanges do. So we're not trying to make a market there. We are trying to get the customer their trade, their asset for the best possible execution route.
hmm. And as cryptocurrency becomes more, integrated into the payment systems, where do you kind of really foresee the significant impact on people's daily lives? And what excites you most about like these developments in crypto beyond finance?
Yeah, two pieces I think to that question. One, I will be happy when nobody realizes that the thing that they are doing is using crypto. So
Me
whether
too.
it,
Yes.
yeah, whether it's sending money, when you think about, like, you send money using Zelle or you send money using PayPal, you think, oh, I just enter a few things and move the money. There is actually a tremendous amount of orchestration and technology in the back end of those processes that make it seem like money is instantly moving. And crypto has the potential to disrupt a lot of that, make it seem like money is moving. So, customers may not actually see a change to how they interact, but hopefully they'll do it faster, cheaper, and more efficiently using crypto as the rails. But aside from finance, the second piece of your question, there is a lot of potential for blockchains to disrupt any place where you have a bunch of middlemen who are only there because counterparties don't trust each other. So
Mm.
that's everywhere from shipping manifests. Like
Yeah.
I've talked to one company who's trying to do on-chain shipping manifests. That's a huge multi-million dollar industry that they could put on chain, and they can make that settle really quickly. There's a lot of other real estate title companies, for instance. They exist
Yeah.
just because you have these really federated supply chains and you don't necessarily trust your counterparties. Blockchains are really powerful at removing the burden of having to trust your counterparties, as long as the technology is sufficiently decentralized, as long as it's secure, then you can actually move a lot of these use cases to on chain.
Yeah. And despite, the growth that we've had, there are still many that have a lot of reservations about getting involved in crypto and the industry overall. What do you think, Paul, needs to kind of happen to shift that public perception?
Yeah, I think we have seen both good and bad when it comes to the narrative of crypto as a way to get rich quick. And that has
Mm,
brought a lot of people into crypto as a tool. But unfortunately, a lot of those people are in it for maybe not the long-term reasons, right? They're looking to get in and get out, and maybe do a meme coin or two, and not have to work. And that doesn't necessarily create long-term value in the
yeah.
industry. So I would love it if we had one clear regulations as to this is what governments around the world expect in crypto. This is how they expect segregation of customer funds, how they have a listing policy, what you need to disclose, what you don't need to disclose. That will help make sure that there's an even playing field for companies and customers to play with responsible actors. Secondly, I would love it if there's more utility to the different things that customers can interact with. There's a lot of really cool projects out there that are trying to do new things on chain, and giving people more access to those types of projects would be great, more than just, hey, I hope that this will go up in value so that I can sell it to somebody else.
Yeah. And as the space really kind of attracts more participants, how do you kind of anticipate their needs evolving? And will they seek kind of a system that's more like traditional finance, or do you kind of foresee it being like this completely new paradigm?
I think long term it will be a new paradigm, right? I always try to get my product team to think about what does this look like when we are not iterating on what exists today. So we're still very early stages, I think, in the evolution of crypto. And what we are doing right now is taking models that people are familiar with and recreating them on chain. So people understand, oh, I'm logging into my bank, I'm seeing my balance, or I go to my broker and my E-Trade and see that. So a lot of the crypto experiences today are replicating that. They're rebuilding that. But in the future, the Back to the Future quote, where we're going, we don't need roads. Like I think we will eventually get there, where the paradigm that people interact with each other is going to look a lot different and feel a lot different, because crypto is enabling things that just weren't possible before.
Yeah. Now let's talk about, something that's very important. And you had kind of alluded to this a little bit earlier, and you brought up a very important word called trust. So building trust in crypto is obviously something that's very challenging for many. What do you think's been kind of the hardest aspect of kind of cultivating Uphold's reputation? How do you kind of navigate those obstacles and continue pushing forward despite, a lot of negative news or a lot of positive news and other kind of narratives that are out there mainstream?
Yeah, it is very important to hold trust and to custody trust effectively. If you go to Uphold's website, you can see a transparent listing of our current reserve holdings. You can see all of the tokens that we keep on behalf of our customers and the values there. And we always keep that over 100%. We don't loan out customer money, things like that. But that's not enough, right? You have to be giving your customers value, especially when they need it. I think one example and where Uphold has really found a strong user base is the Ripple, the case of Ripple. So within
Yes,
Ripple,
talk a little bit
you know,
more about that. Yes, go into
yeah,
detail.
yeah, there is, I think we're all aware of the
Maybe,
SEC's
maybe
case.
actually, you know what, Paul? Maybe some folks might not be aware of kind of how this all got started and why it was even considered to be controversial to, support Ripple and the token XRP. So
Yeah.
help explain that a little bit. Break it down for us.
So a few years back, I think the SEC was looking to try to create more clarity around what they will accept with crypto and what they won't. And depending on who you ask, they may have gone a little bit too far into, hey, we will regulate by legal action.
Yeah.
And they opened a case against Ripple that said that they basically accused Ripple of having unregistered securities. And in the space of that case, a lot of other exchanges didn't want to take the risk, so they delisted Ripple. You could not buy Ripple on major exchanges, Coinbase, things like that. And that was a prudent, very risk-based approach that they took. That, hey, we don't know the outcome of this. It could be disruptive to their business. Uphold took a little bit different approach and did not delist because there was no kind of court precedent that
Mandate.
said,
Yeah.
"Hey, like, this is not a decided matter," and so we were for a long time the only place where a U.S. customer could come and trade Ripple and build their holdings in XRP. And so that was a really important asset for Uphold, and that's an
Mhm.
important segment of our customers today are people who use Ripple. I saw one stat that said next to like the Ripple Foundation, we have the most XRP of any exchange, which is really cool to think that there's a community who have really found their niche, found a company that can help meet their needs, and I want to be that to all kinds of other crypto communities, whether you're into Solana or whether you're into Ethereum, whatever your people are. I want to create a place where it's safe to be around those people and get the services you need through Uphold.
Absolutely. And I'm sure that you probably have a lot of loyal customers that are praising what you guys did for that decision when so many others went the other way. Speaking about community, I mean, I know it's very important, obviously, when you first started up, but I think even more important now. How does Uphold kind of interact with the community? What are some ways that you continue with the education and then also to kind of giving back to the people that have, supported your organization since its inception?
Yeah, great question. So one of the things that we really try to do is educate a lot of users, especially if they don't know a lot about crypto. We have a whole education section on the website that walks through what are the basics, what are the things that you need to know about. That's kind of the first layer where somebody can go in, learn a little bit and start to transact, start to use the systems and learn a little bit more. The second thing that we like to do then is make sure that we are highlighting new tokens that we launch or new things that a customer could take advantage of. So whenever we launch tokens all the time, we try to have a write-up about it. We try to give access to users so that they can get a feeling of what this token is like, how it works. And then we also want to make sure that we're working with different projects and different teams to better educate our users on the benefits and the value of those different projects. That's kind of the first layer. What you'll see a lot in the coming months and maybe as we progress is a lot more community engagement from the team here at Uphold. I know that we have people right now in Denver at ETH Denver talking to people, understanding. We have a very successful product called Topper, which allows you to integrate crypto on and off ramps. And Topper is a really big way for most people to like buy their first coins now because it's embedded inside their wallets. And as a community, Topper users are starting to get together, starting to talk about, hey, can we launch this token? Can we launch that token? So a lot of it is a feedback loop, right? Where we're learning from the community, we're making changes to the product, we're putting it out there, and then we're adapting based on what the community says. And of course, it is so helpful to get feedback from the community. We'll be at trade shows, we'll be at places like ETH Denver, um, XRP Vegas coming up,
Yeah.
and you'll be able to talk to people from Uphold, share your feedback, share your thoughts, so that we can make the best product for people.
And we're going to get into shortly a little bit about what makes Uphold the internal team and kind of I would say, what you guys been built makes you guys so special. But I really want to just kind of touch on something that you brought up earlier about this technology being disruptive. And there's obviously another technology that's rather disruptive, and that's AI, right? So when it comes to AI kind of playing a larger role in crypto, what implications do you foresee for Uphold, and kind of how will that shape your approach and your role in the organization in general? And are you already starting to integrate some uses of AI right now?
Yeah, definitely. I'm a big fan of AI. I think AI is amazing. It's another thing that makes me feel like, oh, I'm living in the future now. I run local models. I use the big models, and it's just so cool to be able to empower somebody to be 10 times more productive than they would be without AI. And we're using a lot of those same benefits within Uphold. One of our CTO actually just did give a demo to me of how they are using it to automatically parse some of the monitoring and logging that they have, so that we can react more rapidly when something happens, or when something is not adding up in terms of the logs. So that's just one example. AI is used everywhere, of course, for everything from fraud detection to identity
Yeah.
verification. All of the places where a model has been trained to spot behaviors and help highlight where behaviors aren't matching what the predicted things are, then we can send it to a human to look at. And our developers all have the ability to access AI tools, whether that's through Copilot, whether that's through GPT. They're able to look at that. And then my product team, I encourage them all the time to use AI, whether that's to crystallize their thinking, maybe come up with a template for, hey, maybe this is a way that I can present this, or even
Mm.
just to summarize conversations that they had. Like, AI is such a powerful tool. Now, I'm really excited about the combination of AI and blockchain, right? Because if you think about what AI relies on, AI is incredibly important on data, on big data, and like large streams of data. And blockchains are a really good way to rapidly access data and store that data. So the combination of a blockchain with AI can open up so many potential, everything from agents who are paying each other and autonomously interacting, to new types of experiences that are built because you have a trustless, decentralized data store that is helping that AI tag content, track content, cite content, all of that.
And when you speak about agents, because I've been doing some research on this as well too, and it's really interesting, especially with um, respect to DeFi, and I think that was Godius Maximus, or one of these other AI agents that created its own, meme coin or something like that, and it got a pretty significant market cap. So with that, and then other agents that are going out there and that they're, doing trades on behalf of other people, do you have any kind of reservations about AI, or do you kind of have any fears about ways that it could be potentially used in a negative way?
I think with any new technology, there are going to be good and bads with it.
Mm,
It is a tool, right? And so you can
yeah.
you can use a hammer to attach two pieces of wood, or you can use it to break a window, right?
Yeah.
And I think AI has the potential to really disrupt a lot of the existing flows that people are expecting. So, one example is a lot of ways that we check if somebody is authorized to do something is through a liveness check, right? Where
Yeah.
you can say, oh, you take a selfie of yourself. In a world where AI can generate images and move
Yeah.
things around, you have to be even smarter with some of those things. We have to rely on other signals and other data to make sure that this is actually the person who we are dealing with. And that really takes a much more creative thought process in, okay, what does a world look like now that you can't necessarily trust the things that you see with your eyes? What other signals do you use? So yeah, of course there's downsides to this explosion of generative technologies, But yeah, I'm a optimist. I'm a techno optimist in particular. So I think the good will outweigh the bad.
Yes, for sure. And crypto can also drive global financial inclusion. That's something that when we originally chatted was something that was near and dear to you as well too. So how do you kind of really see Uphold contributing to this movement, and what causes in the crypto space resonate most with you?
Yeah. So this is near and dear to my heart. I grew up in an environment where there wasn't a lot of financial literacy. So I learned everything I know about finance by making very expensive mistakes. And luckily, I was relatively young when I made some of those mistakes. So everything from the importance of your credit score to
Hmm.
how bill pays and stuff work, all of that I learned the hard way. I want to make it so that people who are growing up today don't have to learn those same lessons the hard
Yes.
way. It just
Amen.
is
Amen.
embedded in things. So financial inclusion, huge, very important to get people access to tools. There's the old saying, it is incredibly expensive to be poor. I think that is very true. I think high interest rates, the ability to finance things, giving more access to that to lower interest rates will help more people be able to manage their finances, be able to manage their money, and then giving them tools and technologies that they can use to better plan, better allocate their funding, and better understand what the future will look like of their finances is super important. And it's something that crypto can help with.
Yeah, I like that, Paul. And as we know, working in this industry, it can be very unpredictable. It moves a million miles a second, and there's just so much going on. So, kind of, how do you stay focused on the long-term vision? Maybe this is a question for you, and then you can talk about maybe how your team approaches this, and what are some strategies that kind of help you stay grounded amid all of this volatility and rapid changes in the industry, because it can be a bit nerve-wracking at times, right?
It certainly can be, and when the world collapses around you, and then rebuilds itself like the next day, it can be very, very whiplash inducing, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
one thing that helps me stay grounded is a focus on the mission, and really the mission is how can we enable the next set of innovation using blockchain rails, and a big part of that is thinking through what will that future look like. And this is something I challenge my team with is think about the next level use cases. Think about the problems that people will have when everything is on chain, and what do the solutions to those problems look like, because we will get there. We will be in that place faster than we even imagine. It's been crazy to see how crypto has grown. I was at a conference, Token 2049, in Singapore, and it was
yeah.
multiple levels of this giant convention center. And I think back to some of the Bitcoin meetups I was at, where we're like in the back room of a pizza place and just a
So
bunch of
no,
people
like
talking.
before we go even for like, talk to us a little bit about just the difference in like some of those early days and those meetups versus to like what you've seen now, and does that just give you a bunch of optimism, or is it just like that you feel that we still have so much further to go?
So one thing that I really loved about kind of the early open source ethos is it didn't really matter where you come from, what your background was, what you knew or didn't know. People were really excited to share their knowledge and collaborate on something. And I think that is become more and more important as people get polarized, as people have very strong opinions in one
Yeah.
direction or another. That spirit of openness and collaboration, that's what I hope that we can never lose. There's also a very big acceptance in crypto of maybe counterculture views. I was a cypherpunk, right? I was like, oh yeah,
And for,
we
for people that don't know, like, tell us a little bit about that, because there may be someone like they've never heard of that term before. So just give us a brief kind of overview of what the ethos of that's what it's all about.
yeah. I mean, being a cypherpunk is really, it came across kind of in the 90s or so is where I was exposed to the movement, and it's really about privacy is important in a digital world. And
Yes.
in order to maintain that privacy, you have to have strong cryptography, And that strong cryptography then enables more personal freedom. So it's really about having the power to control your digital identity, but
Mm,
all of the digital nexus that you have in your life having that same kind of power that's enabled through cryptography and through the magic of math that allows you to be able to interact with all of these different technologies while preserving privacy, preserving security, and kind of personal freedom.
yeah. Yeah. And moving forward to today, I was thinking about this as well too, as you were kind of talking about your team, and as your team does expand, how do you all kind of balance fostering this creativity while also ensuring that you're within regulatory compliance? Because I know that's something that's very important, and that sometimes has felt like a moving goalpost at times. So, what's really the best way that you can kind of manage that and still kind of keep the positive culture inside?
Yeah, it is very different at Uphold than other places that I've worked at because there is such a collaborative culture between the different compliance, legal, risk, and product teams.
Hmm.
And sometimes legal and risk and companies like people like that, they really see their job as, hey, wait, I my job is to say no, and we don't want to take any risk. I think you have to be willing to play in areas that are undefined and be comfortable taking intelligent risks in those places. How does that manifest in crypto? There are places in the world that have no crypto rules and no crypto regulations. And a very conservative company might say, oh, well, we won't even like open in those markets because it's unclear. We don't know what we can and can't do. But a smart company will say, hey, we will look at the services that we offer. We will make sure those services are secure. We will take the learnings on the places where there are clear guidelines, there are clear regulations, and we will apply that same learning so that when the day comes that there is clarity, we will be operating across a framework that is well understood. And Uphold has a lot of licenses where we're licensed in the UK. We have a lot of that backbone that has gone through these licensing processes, and the things that we've learned there we can apply to the products and services we offer in places that there are no licensing or the rules are less clear.
Yeah. And just with that, from that regulatory standpoint, obviously within the US, we're moving in hopefully a much more positive direction. But just with all those different jurisdictions that you guys have and that you're operating in, how is it just kind of managing all of that? And as we mentioned before, just, before we got onto this, the live here, we were talking about just like, since we had a conversation, was it last week? I mean, maybe even it was a week probably before then, so much has changed, right? And internally in an organization that's trying, it's very product based and user based. How do you guys really just, I would say, even keep up with all these changes that are so fast?
Yeah, there is a lot going on, and I'm lucky that our team is constantly online and constantly looking at the latest news, looking at the latest rulings. We have a very strong compliance and risk team that will also take the learnings and take the documentation that is put out and help us understand, okay, how can we adhere to these regulations while still offering the products that we need to offer. And
Mm,
that's I think every responsible crypto exchange has that same interplay between what's going on, what's changing, what we know, what we think is likely, and what we can kind of address without worrying about the current state. I mean, PayPal was the same way, and other places that I have worked at are the same in that let's know what's going on and let's be able to take a risk-based approach to that.
yeah. And with so many different things, I mean, over the years, you've seen, the collapse of FTX, so many different things, right, that have happened. And even more recently, some volatility kind of within the space. When you're working in an industry like this, where, your product can be impacted by something that's completely out of your control, how do you, as a team, kind of keep the feelings high and keep everything positive? Or do you just think that that's innately in the kind of, I would say, the DNA of the incredible team that you guys have been able to create?
I mean, we certainly have an incredible team, and they have a lot of that in their DNA, but it does impact people. I think if we look at the last few months, like $1 trillion has been erased from the market cap of the crypto industry, and that $1 trillion is a lot of money. Um, one, you have to feel for people who have lost money in it,
Yeah.
and for people who maybe have not made the right decisions or have not taken the right risks based on their risk tolerance. And that's the most important thing, is to make sure that our customers understand what is a good risk tolerance, what are the right assets based on what their needs are and where they are in life. But then to make sure that our product team has that same empathy for, this is what's going on in the broader market. This is what we can do to make it actually irrelevant what the price of crypto is, because the technology that we're building is so fundamental to the way people move money, the way companies integrate with these things. And ultimately that's where we're headed. We're headed towards a move away from the volatility of what the market is doing, and more to offer services to companies so that they can integrate into their products and into the things that they're building.
Within this industry, I feel at times, sometimes it can feel a bit siloed, especially when you're talking to other people that work in the industry. And this is something that we chatted about as well too. So, do you feel where we are right now, that we are actually building products to address the needs of people, or are we being a little bit too forward thinking and kind of building things as an industry that people don't necessarily need right now and or understand? And how do you think that we can continue to keep that balance, where you're not going too far ahead, but also too that there are things that the customer probably doesn't even understand yet, so you want to create those to make sure that you are being forward thinking. How do you balance that?
Yeah, it is hard to balance that, and I don't think this is necessarily crypto specific. I think any technology product
Yeah.
management team is looking at the same thing, and especially because you have to be forward thinking. It is a very robust, very dynamic marketplace out there, and the startup that you don't even know about is the one who is going to disrupt you. So you always have to be thinking about, what is the next use case, what is the next generation, and then how can you ease people into that.
Yeah.
Although I would argue that you should be a little bit more forward thinking than worrying about how does it work today,
Yeah.
because for the most part people are happy with a lot of solutions and how they work today. So it's, how can you improve those with technologies that are coming in the future. There's a famous quote from Paul Graham who says, build things that weren't possible 3 years ago. And I really love that quote, because 3 years is not a lot of time, but it
Mm.
shows how forward ahead you have to be when you're building technology products.
So where we are today, and time is flying by. I told you this would go fast. I'm really enjoying everything that you're sharing here, Paul. But now that you've been in the space, and I would consider you to be a true OG, what's something that you know today that you wish you had have known prior to making your transition into the industry? And what are some words of wisdom that you can possibly share with people that are on the fence right now, thinking, hey, maybe I might want to get into this crazy industry, or either they're working in TradFi and looking to, make that transition into the industry? What are just some words that you can share?
Well, I wish I had known that Bitcoin was going to go to $100,000, and maybe I wouldn't have sold so much Bitcoin early on. But that aside, I do think it is very important for people to be very focused on, what are the right problems to solve, and where do you see problems in the world today. Once you
Okay.
have that lens of like, I see this as a problem, this annoys me, this kind of entrepreneurial itch to want to change something, then go and look at how you can change that, how you can actually start to productize something, how can you move something forward. The magic of blockchain, but also startups and technology now, a big part enabled by AI, is you no longer need to ask permission to do something. You can just go out there and do it. You can just go out and build something. And as it starts to scale, you're going to hit a new set of problems, but that agency to just go out there and do it, that is really the most important message that I hope people get in life is you don't wait. Just do it and follow your passions, because ultimately your creativity and your ability to find uncommon solutions is what will either make something work or maybe not, right? It's okay if something doesn't work. That freedom to fail is also very important. So take a risk, take a chance, jump in and try to solve a problem.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that, there are the people in our industry, we do have that a healthy risk profile, right? But I think that if anything, we're willing to take risks that others aren't. And that's a great bit of advice. Now, I know that you've kind of been technical. You've appreciated the technology your entire career. There are a lot of people out there that have this misconception that you have to be highly technical to get into crypto, or that if you're not technical, that it's going to be a disservice for you. And I think that there are pros and cons from whatever lens that you look at from there. But from your team and other people that you work for that have made that transition, do you think that you have to be technical to get into this industry, or can you just be someone that's passionate and just interested and curious? And how did that work within your team?
Yeah, I think nobody is born knowing technology, right? Technology is all learned and acquired, but people are kind of as they grow up, they have that curiosity, they have that agency, they have that I want to explore new things. And
Yeah.
that is much harder to teach than how to code or how a blockchain works, or what you need to understand the
Mhm.
different mechanics of different systems. So I would much rather have somebody who is curious, who is open minded, and who really has a sense of, I want to solve a problem, versus somebody who is a deep technologist, which is also great, right? If you can combine both of those,
Then
then
boom.
you're unstoppable, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, to answer your question more directly, I think it is much more important that you have that passion, that curiosity, than it is that you have the technical aspects. But now is really a great time to learn something new. All of the knowledge of the world is at your fingertips, and you can really quickly iterate, really quickly learn, put things together, put MVPs together. And so this is a really great time to take a risk and try something new, even if you don't have a technical background.
Yeah. And looking forward, where would you see this industry, I would say, in the short term, 5 years, 10 years from now? And I know that this is, I mean, trying to make you to be out to be Nostradamus, but really kind of, do you ever think it will be fully integrated into traditional finance? And kind of as this evolves, will it kind of become something entirely new on its own? And what's just kind of your personal outlook on the future trajectory?
I think one day in the future we will look at some of the processes that exist today and laugh and be like, how
Yeah.
could we do that? I remember when I bought some crypto early on, I had to write a check to cash and deposit to a certain account. Went to my bank. It's like, I don't know who this is, but I'm putting this in their account. And then I got credited for some Bitcoin once that cleared. Right now, I look back and I was like, one, I was totally stupid and could have gotten scammed. But
Yeah.
two, how much progress have we made where it's actually pretty simple now to easily go to Topper and get some crypto. So and that's just been a few years, right? That hasn't been a huge time frame. So when you think about 5 years, 10 years, I think we'll look back and a lot of the things that we took for granted or we took as table stakes will have really evolved and been empowered by blockchains, because it's not going to necessarily be upfront. I'm not going to be opening my wallet and signing something, but I will be opening my app or my holographic computer, whatever it is, whatever my operating environment is in the future, and it will happen more effectively, cheaper, faster, because there is a blockchain and there is crypto that is powering that transaction.
And speaking about the evolution, right? There's been so many advances, and as you mentioned before, right, since you've gotten to the space to now, things have gotten a lot better. But I think that we obviously have a lot more room for improvement. And one of those things, and I was thinking about this earlier, Paul, is that maybe in our industry we don't give ourselves enough credit for how far we've come, because from the first automobile, when you mentioned doing things like crank starting a car, to like now where you have automatic starters, right? Like no one would even think about that. And that just curve, it took quite amount of time for it to become from something where it was more industrial to being more used on a commercial basis, right? So even the first computer, right, the first iterations of the internet compared to like actually making it usable for end users, that took decades. So do you think that we're maybe not treating ourselves with enough kind of care and compassion? Or do you think that because we've reached a point in just technology where things move kind of at this exponential rate, that maybe we should be a little bit further than we are today? So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it is a hard to pinpoint exactly where we are on kind of the adoption curve, right? As a sci-fi fan, as somebody who reads a lot of books, I'm like, oh, the future could be so different. But
Yeah.
then there are so many things that, like, I can open an AI agent that is running on my computer and ask it almost anything in the world. I have this little USB device that can mine Bitcoin, right? So we have made so much progress
Yeah.
as we have started to solve more and more problems. And it's very easy to look at the problems that we still have and be like, oh, we still have so long to go. But you're right that we have made so much progress in a relatively short period of time. And again, there's the old quote, things change slowly and then all at once. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think we will see that slow change, and then all of a sudden everything will be different, and we may not even realize it. We're like, oh yeah, it used to be some other way. I don't really remember that because this new way is so much better.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Awesome. Well, because we are almost up on time here, I did want to leave some time here for you to tell people in the audience, how can we keep up to speed with all the awesome things that Uphold is doing? I know that you mentioned education is a very important part to your organization. So nothing that's obviously confidential, but can you share with us, Paul, some really cool things that you guys are working on from the product side? Anything else in your roadmap that we should be excited about? And then also closing out, what's the best way that we can follow you and people in the audience can stay in touch? And wrapping it up, talk about, kind of where you are in terms of being able to hire. Are you open to volunteering and other people that are just trying to contribute?
Yeah, lots there. One, we continually make new innovations that I think are incredibly cool. We just relaunched staking in the UK. I think that is
Nice.
huge.
Nice.
And more to come as more and more clarity comes in where we can and can't turn on different features. We just recently had a DAO vote to a protocol called Exactly that will allow people to take out loans based on a credit card
Yes.
collateralized by their crypto. So,
Yes.
this is stuff that is not possible in TradFi that we can really make possible, or at least a lot more frictionless with crypto. So that's really exciting. You can continue to follow us on Twitter where we post these updates. You can personally follow me on LinkedIn if you want. Happy to share things as those go forward. And of course, visit uphold.com. One, to see all of the things that we're building. Two, you can look at our careers page and see the roles that we have open. Everything, not just in product, but engineering, in operations, across the company. And then finally, be a participant. It doesn't
Yes.
matter if you're participating in
Yes.
Uphold or you're participating on Reddit or
Oh,
on Twitter. Just like be out there and be open to sharing your ideas and participate in the ecosystem of those ideas, because that is how progress happens. That is how we can empower more and more people.
yeah, there are so many ways to get involved, so many ways to get involved. And hopefully, by people listening to this conversation, they can start to think of maybe there's ways that they can be a part of this community and give back. I think that's where it all starts, right? You have to have some value to really kind of start out in the industry. And one of the things that I wanted to kind of think about as well too, I didn't bring this up earlier, but as we kind of move to this more adoption phase of institutions and large players and more traditional companies and banks and things like that, do you see that, Paul? And maybe does your organization look at that as more of an opportunity, or as more of a threat to kind of your business and where you're going?
Oh, definitely an opportunity, right? We are a fintech platform. So the more businesses that want to connect into the crypto ecosystem and get the benefits of blockchains, whether that's instant settlement, whether that's quicker remittances, whether that's lower fees for payment processing, or opening new markets for cross-border payments, all of that is just around the corner and
Yeah.
easy to plug into with a set of APIs and with the right technology partner. So it is a huge opportunity for everyone, I think, as more and more businesses leverage the power of blockchains.
Awesome, awesome. Well, this has been an incredible conversation, Paul. Thank you so, so much. I'm really excited that we had a chance to chat, and look forward to keeping in touch. Any parting words? Anything else that you want to, any other words of wisdom, last minute thing that you want to share with our audience?
Well, thank you, Trevor. I love the conversation. Really look forward to all of the guests that you have and learning about the different aspects of the industry. It's super helpful. And to the people who are listening out there, just keep building. Just keep creating new things, because that is how all of this comes together, and that is where the human race is ultimately going to go, is a bunch of people who are being super creative. And if you want to do business with Uphold, you want to work with us, please reach out. Uphold.com is our URL. You can learn a lot there.
Nice. And I think the magic, what you just said, is um, keep learning, right? Like, you've been in the space for years. You're an OG, right? Like, the learning never stops. I think that that's one misconception that maybe people outside of the industry feel, that like once you get in, that like you're all set. Like, I think if anything, once you become a member of this community and once you get involved, like, then you realize how much you don't know, and it just makes you even more motivated just to learn more and more and more. And it's just like
Yeah.
this nonstop like knowledge loop. And honestly, you can see I'm getting super psyched about it. I just love it, and I've learned a lot from our conversations here, Paul. So thank you once again for joining. Thank you so much, folks. For everyone that took time on their Friday, you could be doing anything else in the world, but you joined this conversation. You're here with us and learning, and I hope that this was valuable to you all. We will be getting this summary up to LinkedIn shortly, and I would love to get this recorded episode up to YouTube within the next couple of days here. So if you did not get a chance to check this out live, please do yourself a favor and check it out on YouTube, and look forward to having some great conversations in the future. And Paul, thank you so much. Have an incredible weekend. Take care. Bye,
Thank
guys.
you, Trevor. Bye.